Welcome to our artist series, In Conversation. Today's episode features two artists whose works couldn't be more different from each other: abstract landscape painter Melana Bontrager and figurative painter Björk. There's something that resonates with me by combining their work in the same visual space, so I was really excited to put them together. I'm Judith Rinehart of the J. Rinehart Gallery in Seattle. Thank you so much for joining us. I welcome Melana and Kelly today to introduce themselves and discover the commonalities in their works in this fantastic conversation. I'm honored to have works by both artists in the gallery during our group exhibition, In Conversation, on view through December 19th and online at jreinhartgallery.com. Enjoy!
My name is Kelly Björk, and I'm an artist living in Seattle, Washington. Okay, I would describe my work as capturing intimate scenes, but of quiet moments, usually focusing on interior spaces. Some of it can be self-portraiture. A lot of it, though, is capturing my community and people that are important in my life.
My name is Melana Bontrager. I'm an artist out of Everett, Washington, just north of Seattle. And I would say my art is, I would call it abstract landscape and the use of abstract structures. I use a combination of India ink, sometimes graphite, and acrylic medium.
Relationships influence me, and really just the interactions with other humans, especially those that are more intimate, and just the connections we can make.
My influences are a combination of human experience, the interaction between human beings, and the emotions and the experiences of that, and nature. I use nature as an inspiration, the jaggedness of rocks, the combination of time and weather and all the elements that force changes in what we see in nature. The crumbling, the replication of shapes, all of that. I think seeing that and the beauty that we can observe in that is really a metaphor to me for the human condition, for the things of life that press up against us, the experiences, the emotion that really forms us into the people that we become.
What I like about Melana's work is that it's more abstract, and I always am interested in abstract art because I don't know how to do it. And also, I love that we have these overlapping ideas of dealing with community in our work, and I find it really, or I should say, I'm excited to talk to her about that and see where that intersects for both of us.
Well, I am fairly new to Kelly's work, and I'm really super excited about being paired with her because it feels like a new discovery, both in personally, just in the little bit that we've talked. I feel like we have a lot that we can talk about. And then also just seeing, I really love the intimacy in her work, and I feel like both her use of color and her use of line really speak to that. In reading her, what she has written about her work, I feel like it is very consistent, the way that she approaches it completely. So I feel like the colors really draw me in, make me feel invited into her stories. I also feel like her line gives really incredible importance to each part of her pieces, and that seems to be, we'll hear a little more later, but that seems to be what her work is about. So I think that that's very consistent. I'm excited to hear more from her. Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too.
And to see your work in person, which I'm excited to spend a little bit more time with it too.
Same here.
It's only been online.
I know.
So this is really exciting.
Very exciting.
And a little nerve-wracking. And really exciting.
Yeah.
We talked about when we connected last night on the phone, we talked about story and how, like, I think your work even more obviously is very storytelling, but I feel like there's an aspect of mine that is that way too, and story is very important to me. Yeah. So I was interested in hearing, just everybody comes to be an artist in different ways and from different angles and for different reasons, and I wanted to hear your story.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in art since I could pick up utensils when I was little, and it actually just was it wasn't really a decision. It was just kind of like, that's what I'm going to do. And luckily I had a supportive mother that was just all for me doing that, and I went to Western Washington University and studied drawing and printmaking. And then it's just kind of felt like a thing that I have to do, and if I don't do it, I feel off, you know? So it's something that I always come back to. It calms me to go into the studio and work, especially with series. And that probably goes to what you're saying about seeing like storytelling. I get the most excited when I have a series of like a body of work that I'm going to work on, and usually, yeah, it's relating to what's happening in my life or the people in my life, and it feels important to kind of document that. So
yeah, I see that. Especially there's one piece that has, it's a bed scene, and it has something, I think it's like dentures or something. There's something on the nightstand that feels very, like it would be very easy to overlook that part, you know, to just create the scene, but it's almost like that little thing is given just as much weight as everything else. I think that's what I meant when I was saying earlier, that I feel like the intention, you just give everything such importance, and I see that in your work, so that's really cool too.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I really love balancing a lot of more negative space and lots of color within an intense amount of detail in like one small area. So I love that you noticed those.
Yeah, what were they? I'm saying dentures.
They were tiny little rocks that I call teeth, because they look like
okay, so I did get the teeth reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Dentures, whatever, anyway.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your story, and what I read about you describing your work that I really related to was the aspect of community and just fragments of our lives and how that intersects, and I don't know, I'm just really interested to hear how your work comes about, because it's, you know, mine's so figurative and yours is so abstract. I love that, but I feel like there's a lot of similarities that we cross over.
Yeah, I think so too. Even though mine is more abstract, it is I feel very representational in just how I put the pieces of it together, kind of representing that human experience. And my journey has been much, you know, I'm just kind of starting into my career as an artist. I have chosen to go a different route before that, but part of that route was I do my master's in creative art therapy. And so that actually is kind of a tipping point for me, where my art became very personal, and where it wasn't just about the structure of the thing or the technical aspect of the thing, but where it really became an expressive place. And then that, even though I had gone to art school before that, that was kind of my push into it becoming much more personal and much more exploratory. Yeah. So I did an internship at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan with pediatric hematology and oncology. So super sick kids, super sad. A lot of my kids ended up dying while I was working with them. It was really intense. Definitely showed me I would not be able to hang on in that field for very long. It was very emotionally taxing. But my art, because of the field I was in,
that was what I needed to use to process, like for a grade, essentially. So it was mandated that I'm processing, and I was creating horrible artwork. I mean, it was just technically terrible, but it really connected to those broken parts, and I think then I was able to grow out of that. So really, for me, experiencing the therapy of art for myself was what kind of catapulted me into, okay, I need to create something that people can connect to, that I can connect with them, that can be a starting point into, let's talk about all these human experiences that we have, so many of them in common, and see where that takes us, see if we can connect more than, wheedle in there. And I don't know, I'm not a big statement person. I feel like I'm more of a, I don't know. I think that I was thinking about this. I think that there are people who are definitely kind of activists.
Yeah.
And there are people who are more of what I wrote it down. I said peacemakers and activists. And in a way, those cross over, and we definitely need both. But I see myself as one who's kind of I want to bring us together. Like when there has been, we need the action to see what's going on, to realize what's going on. But then I think we also, we need to come alongside each other and be together in this if anything is going to work. So
Yeah.
that was a long answer to
I
your
loved
question.
it. Yeah.
So conversation starters is another one. Do you feel like your art starts conversations when you have people look at it?
I do. I find that a lot of people will spend a lot of time looking at the work and finding peaceful moments, and that's really what I'm striving for with what I want the viewer to feel is to have a space to kind of just come be and feel that they can be vulnerable and spend time and be almost protected and just find a sense of calm, since our world is just so chaotic. I feel like if I could give, anyone that looks at my art that feeling in that moment, that I feel like then I'm doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And they are calming, and even if there's a question of what's going on, I'm looking at this piece, I want to know what's going on in there. It is still the way that you have taken care in representing all of the components, and the colors even are just, everything works in that very calming way. So
well, and I feel similarly about your work. I'm really drawn to this palette. It's so calming to me, and it's really nice to just kind of be taken in and then explore all the different shapes and everything. It's beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah.
They go well together.
Thank you.
Good job, Judith.
Okay. Yeah, can you tell me a little more about this specific color palette and how you came around to it?
Sure. I actually haven't really thought about the sequence, but we were talking about working in the time of COVID and all of that, and this actually was so right before everything shut down, I had been in Central America, and I had started these pieces, this small series of work, but it was super bright. I played off of this was specifically in Belize, and the ground in Belize is very kind of a pinkish color. So from above, from the airplane coming in, there were these landscapes that were excavated, and so it was the lush of the green vegetation, and then the pink of the excavated land. It was really striking. And so I did some pieces. I had taken a bunch of photographs, and I had just started those when everything shut down. So I finished those, and I kind of got, I was the side that, I got really busy right away. I was just okay, fine, we got time, let's do this. And I dug in, and I did those. But when they were done, it was, when they were done, they were done. I was done with them. There were only 5 or 6 pieces, I think, in that whole series. But then right after that, was it's my art kind of mirrored my experience of this whole pandemic, where at the beginning, that bright, like, okay, we're doing this, we can do this, we're all in, everyone's like, okay, you can do it, and in that. And then I kind of settled into the reality of what is this, like the questions of how long can I do this? How am I going to make it? Are we all going to, I have 4 kids. So having them all at home, having my husband work at home, like all of us, we live in a tiny house, but it is definitely feels tiny when there are 6 people in it at all times. And so it was, I think this series, the calmness of it, I use it as therapy. Like I needed something to calm and to settle in. And this was, I think, my processing of that, figuring out, okay, how do I sustain something for an infinite amount of time? Because we have no idea how long everything is going to be the way it is. And so what does it look like to find that? And I was reading a ton, and I read, and I wish I could remember the name of the woman who wrote the book Ninth Street Women. You heard of that? It's at the Abstract Expression, Lee Krasner, and such a fantastic read. So it was all the community in this book that I was craving. It was just all of the studio visits and the life in that, and everything. It was like feeding me in the ways that I'm lonely, but these are my people right now. But I think that whole, I love that era of furniture. I always am telling Judith I want her furniture in here. And I think there's just something that is not unrealistically magical, but there's just something about that era that really kind of speaks to me. And so, and the art in that era, I feel is, I just connect well with it. So anyway, in that, I've called them a number of times my mid-century series, because it feels kind of like the colors feel kind of mid-century to me as well. But so it's like the whole, all those together, I think.
That makes a lot of sense, because I also love that time period, and that might be why the palette is speaking to me.
Okay, yeah, we're together in that. So tell me about yours. Are these all part of a single series, or are they pulled from different?
Yes, they were done at different times. This piece was done while I was at Vermont Studio Center.
Okay.
And that would have been in 2000, I think, 17? Yes.
Okay.
And when I made this one, I was trying to figure out what the series was going to be, and I felt super lost. And so that's why I'm coming out of the toilet, and I'm looking up at the works of Katie Berry, who I know through Vermont Studio Center, because she does abstract work that I really love, and I'm looking up to her for just like some inspiration. And I tend to go with a very the same palette. I have my little palette in my studio that I never clean, and so the colors just build off of that. And I say that I'm an intuitive worker, when things, I don't really plan out things or their meaning before, but it tends to come together afterwards, and I see the thread and the meaning, and it's I've always worked that way, and I've kind of learned to embrace it as I've gotten older and just trust the process. And I feel like that's how my palette works too. It kind of just comes out however I'm feeling,
Yeah.
But I really related to what you were saying about being in your studio during this time and needing to kind of create the calm so that you could have a place to go, because I feel like a lot of my practice is that, trying to create an environment, especially in these pieces where I have some control and can feel just some peace, because usually outside of that it's just pretty chaotic. And
and what's such a gift, I've thought that so many times, to have an outlet where it does meet you, right? To be able to have that connecting point Sometimes I have been told to go to my studio when I'm crabby, by people I live with, because I do need it too. I need to be in that space of creating. Otherwise, there is something that kind of gets snarly.
I have also been told to go to the studio by people that know me. Like, I think it's time.
Yeah. You need some time there. That's cool. You work primarily in gouache.
Yes.
Okay.
And I started in these are just this, a little bit of this is acrylic. Sorry, I'm late. Hold on. What is that called? High-load acrylic.
Oh, okay.
High-load acrylic. That was something that I discovered thanks to Katie Berry.
Okay.
Because it's like gouache, but it can cover larger areas without having to do a bunch of layers.
Okay. And how did you decide on, I don't know a lot of gouache artists. Honestly, it ends up, for me, it was either a class or a portion of a painting class or something, and then I just kind of moved on. I didn't really think twice about gouache, but what drew you to it?
Well, I was introduced to it by my drawing professor in college, and she gave me a set because she thought I would like it, and I then did what you did, put it away, and then I returned to it years after I had graduated, and I like that I can re-wet it. Because acrylic dries too fast for me, but I like the flatness, and oil doesn't dry quick enough. So it's this happy medium.
Oh, interesting.
That I feel like I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have you stayed with gouache primarily? Mm-hmm. Would you say that? Yeah. That might be another thing that's kind of, when I was thinking about what materials I use, there's some people who can just dive into all these different things, and I think that's wonderful. And I do find myself being a person who likes all different things, and I'm kind of eclectic, and I will try pretty much anything. But in my art, it's been really important for me to stay with one thing and go deeper with it. It feels very important to me that I'm really confident that I know what's going to happen, that I know I can do what I want to do.
Yes.
I don't necessarily know how the piece is going to evolve because I'm very process oriented, and I do change things and I rework, and I'm always letting it be what it needs to be. But my materials, I want to know what they're going to do. Yeah. And so I feel like oil I could not do because I'm way too impatient. But yeah, that's interesting that you say the same thing about it takes too long to dry, but I do work with a spray bottle with my acrylic because I often it's hard to find that medium place of not drying too fast, but drying fast enough that I'm not waiting so long for it.
So I do the opposite. I have a hairdryer so that I can speed it up.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. So we're both kind of finding that middle place though.
Yeah.
That same thing. I don't know what makes people decide to stick with one thing and go deeper or to try a lot of things. I don't know what that is.
But I don't see myself moving away from gouache, except I guess with the high-load acrylic. Mm-hmm. But it has a very similar feel to gouache, how it's worked. I even use water in it. I don't know if that is okay, but it seems to be working out.
If it works, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. It's all kind of experimental. I mean, I know there are technicalities, but really.
And the other crossover that I was excited that we both had is I use colored pencil on top of gouache.
Oh, okay.
And so I saw that you were using graphite, and that made me very excited because I was always drawing, mm-hmm. and I was torn between the two, and so sometimes I don't know what to call myself because I feel like these could be drawings.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I am too.
Yeah.
Where there is a drawing aspect to it, mm-hmm. where I don't just put paint down. I draw first, and then I paint, then I draw, then I paint.
Me too. Exactly.
So that's so fun. Yeah.
I know.
See, there are a lot of good things here. Good job, Judith. I would want to know. Well, you said this piece was representing you. Mm-hmm. Do you who do you represent in your pieces? Are they always a specific person, or is it a human form as a representation of people in general?
Yeah, as of late, it's always an actual person that I've had some sort of usually intimate personal interaction with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm feeling a shift happen where I want to do more. It doesn't have to be a specific person, but I don't know. Right now I'm being really drawn to water and the moon, and I really want to give a shot at night paintings, which I think is going to be very difficult, but I'm curious about it. It just is something that has kept coming up, and I feel a little nervous to actually execute, but I think it'll be good to try.
What is it that interested you about the idea of night painting? Was there one thing that?
I think through the pandemic, I visited the coast a few times to just go get away from the city, and the water at night with the moonlight has just been one of my favorite things. It's just beautiful and calm, and so I think that could be nice to bring into the studio.
Yeah, I can see where theme-wise very much fit with the idea of calm or just the centering. I often go outside when I can't sleep at night and I just look at stars or look at the moon. I like that, and that feels very centering to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that would go really well. I'd be interested to see how you tackle the color aspect.
Yeah, me too. And how about you? Are you continuing in this palette through this time, or are you seeing a shift? Or
I think a variation of this. I try not to paint for other people, which is kind of hard because I also want people to connect. I find that that's a balance that I have to kind of be conscious of sometimes, is that I don't want to just paint what sells. That's not my intent, but I do want my work to not just be mine. I really do feel like it is, the intent is to connect with other people. And so in that, I've had a lot of people have the response of, oh, it's calming, or, the similar things to what you said. And so I feel like, okay, and that's how I experience it. So I don't feel like it's done. Sometimes I feel like a series is done and that was good and it's fine and it's its thing and I'm gonna move on. But I have been doing even more fragmentation. So these pieces, I started creating multiple landscapes. So when I draw, I'm drawing primarily in graphite, and I'm doing a landscape and then a landscape over it and then another landscape over it. And then I'm finding shapes within that. So they're connecting, but they're much more disjointed even than work that I've done in the past, and a lot less fluid. So finding that composition that works for me within that, but also representing that fragmented aspect. And I'm calling them fragmented landscapes because that's what they are to me. So I have more exploration. I'm also working larger. So I have a couple pieces that are bigger pieces that it's just a different way of, same as when you shrink them down and work small, going bigger creates something different and a new challenge. And so that's where I'm headed.
That's exciting. I look forward to seeing the larger pieces.
Thanks. There may be some here this summer.
Yeah.
Hey.
Great. Well, it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was really great to meet you too. I'm so glad we had the opportunity to do this.
Me
We may not otherwise have met.
Exactly.
Now we can go hang out because this is really fun.
Yes, I look forward to that too.
Yay. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Melana, and thank you, Kelly. That was a wonderful conversation about our relationships and the things that truly connect us. I appreciate both of your calming works, and I'm excited to see where this takes you in the future. For more information, visit us online at jrinehartgallery.com. Sign up for our newsletter to stay connected. You can also follow us on Instagram at jrinehartgallery. Subscribe to our YouTube channel here to be the first to know when we have new videos. Thank you for watching.